Consumer credit is the most common type of lending, the essence of which comes down to the issuance of a loan by a banking institution to a consumer for necessary current expenses. With the help of this loan, friends, you and I consume what we cannot afford with the money we have earned, and we cannot afford much with the money we have earned. If it were not for consumer credit and other loans, many of us would discover that we are poor. So a consumer loan significantly brightens up our lives, although opinions about it may vary, because a person taking a loan seems to fall into bondage to banks. That is so, but most people are slaves even without any bank loans, because they are forced to work all day for money, including in a job that they do not really like. Therefore, you should not attack the loan. It is better to look at it from a philosophical point of view, which we will do in this article. And yet, how should we treat consumer credit and how to use it correctly? Actually, I decided to write this article to form an adequate idea of credit in a person. Since most people use consumer credit, satisfying their current needs and making their desires come true, I decided to focus my and your attention on it. Taking money on credit and buying something you want to buy with it is so simple, you must admit. Meanwhile, some people call this credit a credit for fools, since it is not the most profitable credit, both in terms of the interest rates at which it is issued and in terms of the purposes for which it is taken. And it must be said that this statement is not without foundation. After all, when people borrow money and at a high interest rate to buy all sorts of junk, it looks stupid. But I decided to take a broader view of this issue in order to try to see a grain of truth in consumer credit, as, indeed, in all other loans. You see, friends, many of us are unhappy with the fact that our society is full of deception and fraud, that many of us are deceived at every step, in a variety of ways, including with the help of loans. For some of us, taking a loan means being deceived. That is, it turns out that some people are convinced that there should be no deception in our society, that all people should be honest. It sounds naive, but the desire of people who are deceived is understandable, they want not to be deceived. But those who deceive someone, somehow, in something will never agree with this. So, on this issue, people's views will never coincide. But the point is not even that some want one thing, and others another, but in fact, everyone lies, some in small ways, some in large ones, depending on the person's capabilities. The point is that people by their nature cannot be honest. I won't explain why now, just accept it as a given, and we'll talk about the details another time. The main thing is that we can't be honest because we're all different. There are stupid people, there are smart people, and there are very smart people, and the relationships between them are formed accordingly. That is, the smart people use their advantage to deceive the stupid. A smart person is a strong person, and power in this world decides everything if it is used wisely. So, returning to loans, we must understand that a loan is a way for strong people to exploit weak people. That is, very smart people exploit stupid people with the help of loans and money in general. Yes, with the help of consumer credit, rich people earn money from poverty, which in turn gets pleasure from life only through consumption. Well, tell me, when was it different, when rich people in power did not exploit poor slaves, in the role of which the majority of people have always acted? The majority has always been exploited by the minority, under different conditions, and in our age this happens with the help of credit, including consumer credit. Do you think that taking a cash loan from a bank means becoming its slave, and if you do not take a loan, then you will certainly remain a free man? Not so. Who will allow you to be free in this world, where even oligarchs are sometimes forced to bend under the authorities, so as not to lose the goods they honestly stole? What can we say about ordinary working poverty, which still evaluates each other's success by the presence of a car and a chicken coop, in the sense of an apartment? Many people have nothing left but the pleasure that consumption gives them, which they do not want to deny themselves because there is no point in this refusal. Most people live on the residual principle even without any loans, eating crumbs from the king's table. So why should they refuse the opportunity to live at least more or less like a human being, at the expense of money taken on credit? Well, a person refuses a loan, and then what? What will he do? How will he live? What will he live for? For the sake of work? For the sake of raising little slaves to replace him? Well, tell me, for what? Of course, if a person decides to fight for a better life, for raising his status in society, for a place in the sun, then it makes sense for him to refuse a slave lifestyle and stop taking loans. But many people do not want to fight for anything. I wrote about how to fight for a better life in my previous articles and will write many more times, but offering people such a fight is one thing, but forcing them to fight is completely different. If a person does not want to strive for anything, if he just wants to live an ordinary life and enjoy what he has, then why pull him out of the comfort zone in which he has settled? Let him live by the rules of the system. Let him consume with the help of consumer credit, if that is what he wants. So, I want to say that consumption is for some. What am I saying for some? For most people, perhaps the only joy in life, allowing them to feel like people. Well, what can you do? That's the way our world works. The strong rule the roost and the weak can only submit to them if they don't want to fight for something greater. Why do people prefer entertainment that only dulls them, to reading books that develop them, and therefore are surprised that they are treated like cattle? Do they believe in democracy, human rights, personal freedom and other fairy tales? Wake up, none of this exists. The rich win in court, big shots and bandits run amok on the roads. The majority of people are restricted in everything by harsh and sometimes unfair laws that the legislators themselves practically do not observe. Therefore, being weak and stupid in this world is unprofitable and even dangerous, no matter how you look at it. And it is not the most honest workers who have the most money, who are the most useful, but those who exploit it. Today people see how all these greedy oligarchs, corrupt officials, shameless politicians and lawless bandits live, who are going crazy from fat and doing whatever they want. They guzzle like crazy, they have fun in ways most of you have never dreamed of. They consume more in one evening than you will consume in your entire life. They live for their own pleasure, and you work for them day and night. The picture, it must be said, is not a happy one. But such are our morals, such, for now, at least, are the rules of our life. Seeing and understanding all this disgrace, people feel injustice, and many of them try to live the same way as the rich, but not at the expense of high incomes, but at the expense of loans. People do not want to admit their weakness and low social level. They prefer to imagine themselves to be God knows what, bending their fingers, like prison cattle. All that's left for such people is to give them an opportunity to show off, and they'll immediately take advantage of it. Consumer credit has become such an opportunity, allowing a person to throw dust in the eyes of himself and other people regarding his financial situation. Well, if he wants it, then let him be able to, if not at the expense of his own intelligence, then at least at the expense of borrowed funds. As long as the world lives by the rules by which it lives, most of us will have to adapt to them and look for benefits in what we are offered. But the rules can be different if we decide to change them, and we will change them by changing ourselves. In one of my articles, I let slip a phrase that I would prefer to live the way they live in America, rather than the way they live in China. Or rather, I asked my readers this question. I asked them how they wanted to live, like in the West or like in the East, without hiding my own sympathy for the place where the sun sets. I did not make this comparison by chance, but because of our country's turn to the East. If you follow the news, then you understand what I'm talking about. I don't really like this idea. I can say I don't like it at all, because I know what it can lead to, nothing good. In my opinion, it's better to have a crooked Americanization of our society. With all this idiocy that we are witnessing, than some kind of Sinicization, Iranization or North Koreanization. And let it be better for consumer loans to be the force motivating people to work, rather than the fear of being left without work due to high competition from cheap labor. In general, there is a difference between the orientations, and it is significant. Shock labor and consumption are better than shock labor without consumption. But I don't understand another thing. I don't understand why the hell our country can't become a reference point for the whole world. Why can't it take the best from others, take the best from itself, and create something new and more perfect from all of this? Something that everyone will begin to strive for. Why the hell should we constantly imitate someone? America, Europe, China. Why the hell should we switch to someone when we can switch everyone to ourselves? What kind of position is this? To be guided by someone. This is typical only of brainless blockheads, monkeys who can only imitate and are unable to come up with something themselves. What I mean is that this ideology of consumption, under which we live today, can and I believe should be transformed into something qualitatively new, so that loans stimulate people to work on par with some ideology, with some great goals. Well, people do not want to work for money alone, they do not want to. This is evident from the majority of people who are always complaining about their small salaries, which are really small, but nevertheless, they do not want to work, no matter how much you pay them. Moreover, as a person who hired and still continues to hire people, I have noticed that raising salaries has an extremely negative effect on the work of most people. They begin to work less and worse. Of course, money inspires some people, but most begin to be lazy. So money does not stimulate people well, they do not want to work for it. Or rather, people do not want to work only for money, they need something else, something greater, for which it is worth burning their calories. Well, why not come up with something great? Why always look at someone else? Take an example from someone. Orient ourselves on someone and imitate someone. Your own head should be on your shoulders. And even more so, you shouldn't look to the east. We don't need to take an example from those who themselves take an example from everyone and imitate everyone. Thus, today's consumption is not an incentive for people, it is rather an outlet for them, because seeing no point in working themselves to the bone in order to earn something and achieve something, people simply take out consumer loans and consume. And then, somehow, work to pay off these loans, adhering to simple logic. No matter how hard you work, there will be nothing good in the future anyway, so it is better to take from life everything that can be taken now, and then come what may. People have been deprived of a future, because all these loans are aimed at the joy of the past, when people consume something with their help. And ahead of them there are only debts, obligations, fears, darkness and emptiness. Well, only children can be that very future for which people live and try to achieve something. Although in most cases we are talking not about children, but about little slaves, future losers, who may settle down in life a little better than their parents, that's all. Let's say, not to a factory, as before, but to an office, which is supposedly better. It's so cool to work in an office, with the stress on the last vowel in the word, office. The slave mentality does not go away, and a child, living surrounded by slaves, willy-nilly adopts their way of thinking. I still burn out the slave in myself with a knee iron, and despite the fact that I am still far from the absolute destruction of my slave thinking, I nevertheless already see that many ordinary people cease to understand me. It is understandable. People cannot understand how one can refuse to lick the ass of their master when he offers it. It is a damn feeding hand. Someone else's stinking ass is a feeding hand. It must be kissed. For people with this kind of thinking, there is nothing in this world except consumer loans. They have no idea that you can achieve something on your own, with your own mind. For such people, the only way to get something is to ask someone for something. And they perceive a loan as some kind of condescension on the part of the gentleman who has given them his attention and approved a loan for them. What joy! So let the people take these consumer loans, let them consume, let them push the economy forward, because if people are happy about it, then why change anything? Many people cannot give up consumption and consumer credit, which allows them to consume, and therefore to live. And why should they give it up? For what purpose? To give up credit means to deprive yourself of something, to abstain from something, to deny yourself something. This is terrible. How can you do this if here is the money? Just take it and buy whatever you want, and pay later. Here, a lot depends on this very later, that is, it is a matter of tomorrow, in which some people see the best, others the worst, and still others see nothing. There is nothing easier than to take out a loan and please yourself with something right now, because in this world of money you don't know what to expect from tomorrow, which may not come. It is difficult for me to disagree with people on this, especially with those who have been very cruelly broken by fate. They no longer have hope for the future, they want to live in the present, they want to live today. And consumer credit allows them to do this. To hell with the lying policy, to hell with all these reforms, to hell with the bright future, to hell with everything. It's all a lie, behind which there is nothing substantial. The world of money is soulless, immoral, deceitful, cynical, cruel. This world has no future, it only has the present, crooked, dirty, primitive, but it exists. And in this present, a person, a simple person, raised for hard, dirty work and for slaughter, has his little joys with which he wants to brighten up his life. Deprive him of these joys and his life will lose its meaning. Why toil for all these greedy rich people if you can't consume, if you know that nothing will shine for you, no matter what tales they tell you about princes who came from rags to riches? To hell with all this nonsense. There is no need to abstain from consumption and deprive yourself of the last joy of life, to please the already fat and brutal, fat cats, who are ready to squeeze all the life juices out of ordinary workers, and then throw them in the trash to rot. Take money from the bank and live on it for your own pleasure. Enjoy life and do not expect anything from anyone. You know, friends, to understand some earthly things, it is enough to talk to the most ordinary people. You need to look into the souls of today's slaves in order to understand that these people are in a desperate state. They do not believe in anything. They do not see the meaning in anything. They do not expect anything from life anymore. They eat the soup that is put in front of them, and they do not care what tomorrow will be. They want it, this tomorrow, to come. They want it to be better than today. But they are not sure that it will be so, and therefore they want to live here and now, using all the opportunities available to them. One of these opportunities is consumer credit, which, of course, robs people, forces them to work, puts them in slave chains. But all this is not so important for those who are already walking in slave chains, who are already forced to work all day just to survive. With or without credit, people do not feel free. People do not see life, you understand, they do not see it, and even if they do not share the last crust of black bread among themselves at the table, but go to all these McDonald's and other barns, where they are fed with combined feed for slaves that is harmful to their health, this does not mean that people live well. People do not live, but exist, and work a lot, and not for themselves, but for other people. They work constantly, and without any desire, without any enthusiasm, without any joy. And what else can they do if not consume? Maybe to toil for a bright future, depriving themselves of a more or less bright present, the brightness of which they see only in constant consumption? No, friends, whatever you say, consumer credit is not as bad as it seems. You just need to have a broader view of life to understand what this credit is for most people. Some of us will never have the things we dream of, never, unless we use consumer credit and buy them for ourselves. Whether consuming is good or bad, we do not know, because no one has offered us anything better yet. I am going to do this soon. I am going to fill the void in people's souls today by offering them something special. But for now, most ordinary people have nothing but consumption. Taking out a loan and consuming means living on credit, not working on credit. It also means not believing everything that politicians promise us in the future, but trying to get everything that can be obtained today and now. So the choice for most ordinary people is very simple. They either take a loan and live today, or they refuse it and work hard, like their fathers and grandfathers, for a possible better tomorrow, for a bright future that the government promises them. Decide for yourself what you believe in, what you have in the present, or what you may have in the future.